Well, hello, and welcome to our third of our series of wisdom. This part is going to be on community wisdom, the wisdom of the communities we belong to. So we might ask, what is community wisdom? Well, essentially it's the shared knowledge, understandings, values, and behaviours of that community group, very much like individual wisdom. We all belong to societies, we all belong to many groups. It's important to really think about their wisdom and what it means to us and to others. So let's go on. What do we mean by community? Well, communities can be very small, like a family or a small tribe. They can be medium, such as a regional area, an ethnic group, a religious group. Or it can be very much larger, an entire nation. And we can belong at all these different levels. Now we can talk a lot about the various groupings, but here in this session I want to concentrate on the national community, because nations is what governs most of our everyday lives and has the greatest impact on our futures. It's important that our nations really focus on wisdom. So the first question we must ask is, how do nations develop their wisdom? Where does it come from? Well, there are two big divisions, and a lot in between, of course. There is the absolute dictatorship, and there is a very open democracy. Let's first consider the absolute dictatorship. Where does it get its wisdom from? Well, unfortunately, it gets its wisdom generally from just one or a very small group of people. And that wisdom generally reflects the individual wisdom of those people or individuals. Now, that can be a problem. We can think of horrible examples of dictatorships, such as Nazism under Hitler or communism under Stalin. They went horribly wrong. Their wisdom was dreadful. It is true that some dictatorships may be benevolent, but much less likely. Now let's move on to open democracies, because these seem to be the majority of the way nations are ruled. Now, open democracies sound marvellous. They have the benefit of all their individual constituents contributing to their wisdom. In theory, their wisdom can change as the individual wisdom alters over time. They are responsive. They are generally much more benevolent, and they generally sort of conform to the beautiful ideals of the French Revolution even, and the Age of Enlightenment. Liberty, equality, and fraternity, a beautiful trio of words that are the basis of what most democracies like to think is their wisdom. So, should we be happy with that? If we're lucky enough to have been born in an open democracy at the right time, we could just congratulate ourselves and relax. No, we can't. Democracies also are very vulnerable to change, to a loss of wisdom, to a perversion of wisdom. And here are some reasons. Firstly, democracies depend on an educated citizenry. A group of people or citizens who are knowledgeable and themselves are wise. And this they get through education. As we pointed out before, however, many nations really may educate at a very high level, but fail to educate in wisdom and citizenship. That, of course, is where we fit in from Education for World Futures. Secondly, even in open democracies, they are still governed by a group of elected representatives. We should always question the wisdom of those representatives. And most of us could look at our own nations and look at our governors, our parliamentarians, and we think, my golly, how on earth did they get elected, some of them? Wouldn't it be marvellous if we could make sure that every person nominated for election was first questioned on their wisdom? We would like to think, ideally, that they would be asked to do a course like ours, Education for World Futures. That's one of our dreams. It may happen. But then we can at least be sure that our leaders are leading from a position of wisdom. Thirdly, democracies, particularly in this day and age, are subject to enormous outside pressures. Think about that. Vested interests. Vested interests with lots of money, vested interests with incredibly sophisticated lobbying organisations, and vested interests who are not really interested in the benefits to society, but to the benefits of their own personal gain, be they businesses or individuals. Beware of vested interests. So we've only just covered a few things in this session. If you want to know more, and we hope you do, please join our Education for World Futures Action Network, where these things will be discussed more in depth, or, when the time comes, enrol in our courses. Thank you very much.